I love your work, man. I'm so excited you're going to be chatting with us today. This will be fun.
Oh, thanks a lot. No, I'm looking forward to it. When Dove Kellemer asks me to jump, I say how high every time.
Yeah, he's got a whole crew of people he's trained into doing that.
He's sneaky.
He is.
I'm actually chained up in his basement right now.
I am not surprised.
Hey everybody, it's Dove, and this is DKE Toys TV. This is episode 6, and hi!
Woo!
Hey!
We have a special guest host today, Robert Burden.
Yeah!
Woo! And we have our regular co-hosts here, Janky Toys, and Barbarian Rage, Scott Cherry, who is...
President!
And Ian is sort of hanging out in the background.
Robert's the first special guest to clap for us, so I'm already thinking this is a good, good situation. Here.
No, it'll be whatever Dove said about me is a lie. Dove is. I have a very.
Remember, I said he was a nice guy.
At times. Well, no, Dove's a great guy. Dove. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Anyway, so for the people watching who don't know who you are, who've just been living under a rock, like, where are you and what are you sitting in front of there? It's kind of crazy.
I am in the Oceanside Museum of Art right now, in front of a painting that I've been working on since 2020. It's called the Alien Painting. Because
why would someone work on a painting since 2020?
Well, it's not the only painting I've been working on, but that's it's when I started it, and it's roughly at this point about 1,800 hours in, and it's 12 feet by 8 feet, and it depicts about 180 different alien action figures from various generations of pop culture, and from the 40s right up until the past few years. And I started live painting it in the museum 2 months ago when it was about 1,600 hours in. I've put about 200 hours in the museum since the show opened. And the show comes down June 4th, and the painting won't be done by the end of the show, but it'll be different. It'll be much more colorful. The way that the way that it was sort of promoted at the beginning of the show was that this painting would be finished. Come see the painting, be finished by the end of, and it was pretty unlikely that was going to happen, but and now
you should just start smoking speed. Just start smoking speed, and then just
in the museum
with
the kids.
This is going to turn into a very different show very quickly.
This is how you become an artist, kid.
The kids walk into the gallery, and he's like taking a shit in the corner of the gallery.
Okay, that's good. I didn't realize it was this kind of show. So
You're real highbrow here, man. This is.
I know. Now I know. Great.
This may be your last museum show if any curators see this episode.
Right.
Or if you actually do start smoking speed at the show. Like, we're not going to have. Look, we can't have this guy around anymore.
So when does the show go to for people watching who want to go visit?
June 4th is the last day that the show is officially open. And then I'll be live painting 4 days. I'm live painting a few days a week when the museum is closed, but I'll be live painting during open hours from Thursdays to Sundays after 3 p.m. 3 p.m. until close. But I've actually been coming in more when the museum isn't open, because that's when I've been getting a little bit more work done.
Are people like coming up to you and talking to you and then like not letting you work?
Yeah.
Hey, I have an idea. I'll live paint in the museum, like in front of people, and then
Well,
it's just giving you suggestions on what aliens to paint in this already laid out, already in process painting.
So it's actually funny you should mention that people obviously have been suggesting some aliens that should go in the painting, and And most of the time it's not something that I'm gonna maybe pay much attention to, but some people have offered some pretty good suggestions that I think actually are pretty bad omissions that need to be in the painting. And once the painting, I'll probably draw them in somewhere at some point before the painting is done. And
I want to know what they are, but I also kind of want to
example.
just do a seek and find later and see if I can figure out the
yeah, I'll say one of them is V. Remember V?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so there's like the 12-inch lizard guy with the head that
Yeah.
comes off.
Yeah.
Yeah, they only
That's
made the
a good-
one toy. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
good
and
one.
that really should be in it.
Wow.
It's too bad there's no official Mac and Me toys because that really makes it hard to justify putting him in there.
No, and I wouldn't be opposed to putting a Mac and Me figure in there at all, but
Terry has one
Scott-
you can use.
Scott
that he
has made one.
that he sculpted.
I made one. Yeah.
you made a Mac and Me
Yeah.
toy?
Yeah.
Really? That's
Yeah.
well that's a deep cut. That's great. I might have to buy one. How many of them did you produce?
Geez, probably like 100 of them by now. Yeah, people really love Mac and Me.
Yeah, it was the
I don't know.
poor man's ET. It was great.
Yeah.
Mickey T.
And yeah, unbelievable amount of product placement in that movie. I mean, it's just pretty wild.
They paid for it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Isn't it like Willy Wonka and the
Yeah.
Chocolate Factory was whatever the company was that was releasing the candy, and then Mac and Me was McDonald's, literally like paying for the movie.
It was
Yeah.
I love that movie so much.
I think on the video, I think Ronald McDonald does the run up into the movie, and there was a certain amount of profits that went to the Ronald McDonald house. I think they had to do that so it wasn't so egregious.
Oh,
But-
I get it. Mac and Me. Duh. I like, how many years did it take me to figure that out? Like, I just got that. I am slow.
Just watch Dove's head
Wow.
explode live.
Wow.
Whoa, Mac and Me. Duh. Got it. Totally get it. So, for people who don't know, Oceanside is on the way to San Diego from Los Angeles. It's in between on the 5 freeway. Me and the family went a couple of weeks ago. It's fantastic. They have these little sheets for the kids to like with little details to walk around to all the paintings.
Oh, that's awesome. It's like
try and
Highlights
find the
magazine,
stuff.
but you're living it.
It's a treasure hunt to see if they can find everything on the list.
Oh, that's so cool.
And the
That's
Cantina
cool.
alien painting that we had right here next to Ian's desk is in the museum.
Sweet.
Whoa.
Dove was very gracious enough to lend it to the museum for this show, and that's
Oh yeah, that was, he's like twisted my arm. He's like, please, can you?
Dove was like, take it back.
Oh, look what I got here. Good job, Ian.
Oh, look at that.
Oh yes,
Look what I got in the gift shop.
all right.
Oh, cool.
We've got merchandise.
I didn't even get a
Oh,
discount.
that's
I had to pay
amazing.
like I had to pay $20.
Dove,
I was like, that's my painting.
I could have got you a 5% discount if you were.
That's great. It's a $20 mug.
I mean, if I'm gonna pay $20 for a mug, though,
Yeah,
that's the one to
That's
get.
worth it. Come on.
I bought 2.
You're supporting the museum. It's a good cause.
Yes, indeed. So, Robert, can you give us a little tour of the show?
Sure. So you can see behind me is the unfinished alien painting. And it is 8 feet tall, 12 feet wide. I've been working on some of these figures. Okay, so I'll just turn this around and show. This is a painting for the show. This is the Boglins painting.
Oh, that's awesome.
Love that.
And then you put real boglins in the little cages in the
So
4
there's-
corners, Sarah.
There's little shadow boxes built into the painting that have the actual
Wow.
original toy inside.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
And if you look at the frame, I dremeled out sections of the frame and put all these little eyeballs in it. Can you see that?
Insane. So you
Wow.
took a painting that's worth like $100,000 or something, and then you put like a $10 boglin toy in there.
Well, the Boglins are actually pretty expensive, to be honest.
Are they really? How
Yeah.
much?
Boglins are expensive now. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not easy to track down either. Also, one of them broke out, so be careful.
That's because he could only afford 3, so he just he put the cage in there. He's like, these are expensive. Where does it say one escaped?
Yeah, don't call me out like that. But
sorry,
it's absolutely true. This is the Star Wars painting, the 20th Century Space Opera. It's 8 feet by 15 feet. And it's a
classic.
This is the one I first saw at Star Wars Celebration in 2007. Is that right? 2008?
No, this was at Celebration 2015.
2015. Okay.
Yeah,
it was the first celebration.
Yeah,
sorry, it was the first celebration right after I think they announced they were making the new movies.
Right. Okay. 2015, and then this has been at Rancho Obi-Wan at Steve Sansweet's place in the interim.
Yeah. No, they don't own the painting, but they're sort of
they graciously lent their wall to you.
It was, I think, a good place for it to be seen by the public until it eventually, hopefully, finds a permanent home.
I think he was hinting at you there, Dove.
Yeah.
I saw this at Star Wars Celebration that year too. There was a huge line just to walk up and look at it.
That was a fun event. That was the first place that the painting was unveiled, and it was with Steve in their Rancho Obi-Wan booth. And I think, a lot of the line was just to see everything that Steve had brought to the convention. And it was a massive event that year. And it was a lot of fun to be a part of it.
That Rancho Obi-Wan booth that year was amazing because he set up these cases full of like all of these handmade stuff. And in there were a bunch of, resin handmade artist action figures that I sold him over the years. And it was just fantastic. Like, going through and sending photos to all the artists, who had stuff there. And, Lucasfilm at the time, I don't think they really understood. And he made a little book too, which was really cool. That was only sold there at the event. So,
yeah, it was a lot of fun for everyone to sort of be a part of. So beside each painting, or a lot of the paintings, there's legends that explain what a lot of the things in the painting are. Why is Gandalf in the painting? Why is Joseph Campbell in the painting? Why is Flash Gordon in the painting? All that kind of stuff.
So cool. I love experiential art, and one of the things I love about your art is that the paintings themselves are experiences. I mean, you can spend hours and hours looking at these paintings and finding new details, and it's just unbelievable work.
And
thank you. So this is the
can you talk a little about, as you show this painting, how your work has changed over a period of time? When I first met you, you were doing paintings like the Tauntaun, like this Transformers piece, where it was like one big, central toy, and then sort of like this design around it.
Yeah. So when I first started this body of work, it was just glorifying one toy that I actually had as a kid. With the Star Wars painting, I only had a couple of little Star Wars toys as a kid, but the Star Wars theme was, to try to get every vintage Star Wars toy into the painting somehow. But originally it was just sort of glorifying a toy that I actually had as a kid. So the Optimus Prime piece is it's a toy that the one toy in that painting that I had, and it was sort of a glorification of that one single thing. So I always had the original toy framed in a shadow box inside the frame or attached with the painting. And I would often use
your heaviest one, right?
The Optimus Prime is the heaviest. You would never.
Ian knows because we've lifted it several times.
Yeah. So
can you show a close-up of the toy, the bottom, and just so everyone can see how much space he cleared on that wall? So he's got, what do you have, an inch on the bottom? And then
this painting just barely fit in the space. It's almost 12 feet tall, and the ceiling is 12 feet. So
can you pan up to the top?
Yeah, this This one's a little tricky to get into space. There's a
Sure.
couple of taller paintings in the show, but they're in the stairwell, this grand sort of giant stairwell that has a enormously high ceiling. So this is the Holy Batman, which is 2012. It's a 12-foot by 7-foot painting. This would be the second heaviest piece in the show. I also made 360 little Batman figurines for the frame.
So all you artists that make complain about resin casting, he cast all those resin figures just for his frame.
So I was able to make about 10 a day.
So we already can't hang, and now with this level, and now we're casting
Janky.
No, I mean, I think the kind of casting you guys do is a little bit more complex than this. That's for sure.
No.
No, I can attest it is not.
No.
Such a great piece. Ugh.
So this is the legend for this one. Yeah, it's again filled with a lot of, since this is sort of an homage to Batman, it's filled with a lot of things that influenced the Batman universe. It's got Zorro in it, it's got Sherlock Holmes in it, and references to a lot of things. The Da Vinci Ornithopter. You would never guess what the third heaviest piece in the show is, but it's actually this Slimer painting. It's the frame on this one is unbelievably heavy. It's a panel again that has the original toy built in to the panel. And then there's a lot of little details that reference the toy. This is an older one. I think this was done in 2010. Yeah, you got a lot of little Stay Puft Marshmallow Men, and then all the food. The original toy, the Kenner toy, came with these like fake pieces of food, like these fake steaks and pizzas and watermelon slices, and so those are worked into the patterning.
So good.
So that's my little setup where I'm live painting.
Wow.
For the next month.
I can just imagine the little kids are like, "Excuse me, mister, what are you doing?"
I've actually started,
I was like, "Get out of here, kid! I'm painting."
So this is some new. This room is the work that's filled with some newer stuff. This is the Fox painting, and it's.
So can you talk about how the style has changed in the new series that you're doing? It seems to focus on something from real life and then the toys around it.
Yeah, well, that's. I mean Okay, so maybe I should start in this other room over here. So there's these taxidermy pieces that have a toy figure of something animal related with an actual piece of animal taxidermy, or in this case, a skull, an actual deer skull with an
Just
actual,
trying to scare the kids.
An actual spider. Little spiders built in. You can see that with the actual Spider-Man, and then there's an actual head of a cobra inside.
So cool.
Insane.
Don't contact PETA. It was remarkably easy to buy a taxidermy cobra from Indonesia. A little concerning, actually, to be honest. But another bat. It's an actual bat inside. And so these are actually older pieces, like this, the Scorpion and the Cobra Commander, the Scorpion from Mortal Kombat with an actual scorpion inside. These pieces were made in 2011, 2012, and they're sort of the precursor to these bigger wildlife pieces that were the actual animal surrounded by as many different toys related to that animal that I could find. So this is actually a remake of a Splinter painting. I made an original Splinter painting in 2011 and then recently remade it because, as it turns out, nobody wants a dead rat on their wall. It was the one taxidermy piece that never got sold. And, I talked to both my sister and my friend about it, the original Splinter painting. And my sister said it's because it wasn't a very good painting. And And my friend AJ said it's because nobody actually wants a dead rat on their wall. And I said, well, it's, those are both valid points. And so I, to test this, I remade the painting. I tried to make a better version of the painting with the rat still inside. And it's still unsold. So let me know.
So where's the original one?
No, this is the actual, like I painted over it.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so
Okay.
this is the only one of the original taxidermy series from 2011, 2012 that didn't sell.
Mhm.
And so I just repainted it entirely.
Wow.
And then you were able to track down all of the people who own the pieces and borrow them back for the museum show.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's
the Battle Cat. That's the first time I became aware of you, was the Battle Cat, the He-Man show at Gallery 1988.
Oh, so not this one. This was the first.
Yeah.
No, it was probably at the 1988 show.
That's the one. Yeah. The one
was
with
this one.
Let me just show you.
Yeah.
And
So this one,
then-
this is the very first toy painting that I ever made in 2006.
Huh.
well,
And it was just a giant painting of Battle Cat, or Cringer, because I remember posting this, calling it Battle Cat, and everyone was like, that's not Battle Cat, that's Cringer. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Your
Okay.
nerd credibility is gone.
yeah,
Yeah.
fraud. What a fraud.
You've upset the He-Man community.
Don't do that.
So I used a wallpaper pattern, or a fabric pattern from my childhood home, changing the color to make it a little bit more dynamic so that it offset the green tiger, the green Battle Cat Cringer figure. But yeah, this was the first one I ever made, and it sold in 2008 to a collector in Seattle. And Mattel got in contact with me and asked me if it was still available, and I said no, it had already been sold. And they said, well, we have this He-Man show coming up in LA that we're working on with this gallery called 1988. Would you be interested in making another one for the show? And they said, we can't guarantee that we'll buy it, but we might buy it if you put it in the show. And I said, okay, well, I'll do it and I'll try it out. So this was the second Battle Cat. It's about sorry, the museum's technically closed. It's a little.
Robert gets the brooms and mops out at night too.
They asked me.
That's how you get a show.
Hey, Robert, yeah, just clean up all this shit before you leave, would you?
Yeah, we'll give you a show as long as you mop up every night.
There's some toilets on level 2 that need some unclogging, but
So, well, I wouldn't put it past it. But so this is 8 feet wide, 9 feet wide by about 6 feet tall. And this was the second Battle Cat painting I made, and Mattel did buy it, and it's in their lobby in El Segundo.
Really?
Awesome.
Yeah. So they
I have a lifetime ban from the building, so
Why is that?
some shit went down. Yeah, I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Okay. That feels like it's something definitely worth talking about. But it's,
The Battle Cat, are there those bronze?
so they're not actual
Battle Cat or
bronze.
something?
This is me in 2009 when this painting was finished, and it's just 2 Battle Cat toys that I spray painted metallic gold.
Hey, whatever works.
Because I remember seeing it, I was like, dude, how did he do that? I couldn't believe, I lost my shit in the gallery when I saw that the first time.
It was see, I had never been in that space before, and I had never seen the gallery before the show, and it was I guess it wasn't exactly a huge space, and the painting was kind of obnoxiously large in the space. And because I remember there was like 100 artists in that show, and then I took up like a sixth of the gallery.
That's
kind of
that's a power move, man.
No, well,
I'm gonna remember that.
It's like everyone just thinks you're an obnoxious dick. Look at this guy, he's filled up half the wall with this. But I had never seen the space before, and it was a really fun show to be a part of.
It was cool, yeah.
I went to the opening. I was only there for like 20 minutes because I got there kind of late. I was with some friends, but it was a really fun event, and I it was the first time, that was 2009. That was the first time I had ever walked into a gallery and seen at the opening and seen a red dot beside something at the opening. Because normally, like, none of these paintings are impulse purchases. Like, these are paintings that people spend some time thinking about whether or not they actually want to live with a 15-foot by 8-foot painting of Star Wars action figures. So they take time to sell. And so it's very unusual for me to walk into any opening of a show of mine and see, a lot of red dots beside something as huge as a 9-foot by 6-foot Battle Cat.
That's so awesome.
The funny thing is, what I've pointed out to Robert in the past is how he's so like ahead of his time. Like, the people who could really afford, a Slimer painting, or it was especially that one, the 80-inch diameter Silverhawks one you did.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, the person who is a fan of that, who's going to be able to afford it, right? It's going to be like another 20 years.
Right.
Before,
Yeah, and it's only within the past two, and you were right, because it's only within the past 2 years that I've started to see a lot of sales significantly increase. It was because I remember having this conversation with you when you basically said you're doing this too soon. Like, it's
you said you're ahead of your time. That's
it
was a compliment. Too soon means like stop. Like, ahead of your time means you're a genius.
Okay, well, that's you're being extra nice for the camera right now.
But I'm supposed to tell people that I'm a dick.
You should see the conversations I have with Dove when he's not on camera.
He just wants to use this as evidence to get you to lower the price on the giant Star Wars piece.
Right.
Nice. I was nice in person.
Well, here's his Cantina 4.
I love that.
So that's the painting that Dove graciously lent for the show.
I had to take that to the framer and had Robert on
This is Peter Pan syndrome.
I was in the middle of a sentence.
Sorry, Dove. Go on.
Never mind. Not important.
I'm sorry. Go on. It was like I'm trying to do a tour here, but go on.
No.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll say. What about the frame?
It was just funny because the experience of framing that, I took it to the framer and we were on like video chat on the phone, and like I'm showing him frames and he was like, I liked, oh no, too gaudy. Oh, that one's good. And like, it was fun. But he chose that frame. It was good.
Cool.
I thought it worked well with the pink and the gold with the pink and the blue. Peter's Pan syndrome is a painting that has lights built into it. These 2 LED lights that actually are built into the panel.
Wow.
Peter Pan syndrome is something I get accused of having quite a bit. So
what is Peter Pan syndrome? Like, never wanting to.
It's an inability for a man to grow up.
I see.
That's what it is.
Michael Jackson had it.
But that's a criticism. I mean, like,
I think people have said it kind of in endearing jest over the years. Maybe not everyone. Maybe not everyone.
I was going to bring Scott and Janky. We're going to go like, crack some heads.
I mean, look, if you can pay rent painting toys, then, go Peter Pan syndrome.
No, I am not. I mean, my painting is sort of like laughing at the idea of it. To me, I find Peter Pan syndrome to be an interesting topic because for me, what a lot of people think it is just like a grown man who likes playing with toys or something. And that's not what I view Peter Pan syndrome as. I view Peter Pan syndrome as a grown man who can't adopt responsibility for anything. Like a grown man who is going to, waste all his money and blow it on things that are, damaging his life in a very irresponsible way. Like, to me, that's kind of what Peter Pan syndrome really is.
But that's just the definition of addiction, right?
Or addiction. But I mean, I guess most people would just say Peter Pan syndrome is an adult who has an obsession with, the things that they loved as a child. But I don't view it as a negative thing in many ways, because what I am ultimately trying to do is recapture the sense of wonder and awe that I had for these things when I was a child. And as an adult, I'm very cynical. I mean, Dove knows I'm a cynical piece of trash. And, the paintings are sort of a way of recapturing some of that innocence of childhood. And children aren't always nice. Like, children can be monsters, but children children can be terrible. But if there's one thing that children aren't, it's cynical. And the paintings are a way for me to sort of rid myself of some of that cynicism and jadedness that I live with, that I can experience through these paintings, that sense of childhood wonder and awe. And I don't really look at anything with the same sort of love and awe, at least from a cultural standpoint, that I do for these things that I had as a kid. And so that's been the goal for the past 17 years, is to try to do that, and do it on this absurdly grand, labor-intensive scale. This is the Battle for the Arctic, which I worked on for about 4 years. It took about 2,200 hours. And it depicts somewhere around 160, 170 different toys that are related to the Arctic, snowy worlds, or one of the 5 countries that are currently vying for control of Arctic seas, which are America, Denmark, Canada, Norway, and Russia. So you've got a lot of things that are, obviously some things that are just related to snowy worlds, like Hoth, but then you've got like Vladimir Putin on a tauntaun. And you've got Queen Elizabeth on an ATST. And you've got the princes of Denmark and Norway surrounded by their Viking clan, and little.
I love how you work the politics into it. That's great.
Yeah.
For the U.S., there's William H. Seward, and he is the American who brokered the purchase for Alaska. He's one of the only reasons the U.S. even has Alaska, which was incredible foresight on his part. The U.S. didn't really want it, and Russia was willing to sell it to the U.S. for just about nothing at the time. And he said that it would be a great thing to have in the future for America, and he was probably right. There's a lot of taxidermy animals as well from the Los Angeles Natural History Museum. There's that walrus up there. That's from the LA Natural History Museum, as well as the polar bear in the bottom middle. Those are both taxidermy pieces. There's the eyeball in the middle of the AT-AT. That's the sort of the eye, or the what is it called? The Providence, the Eye of Providence. And the Eye of Providence was basically what you see on like the American currency. It's the eye in the pyramid. Mm-hmm. And so I had the AT-AT with this like sort of mountain pyramid shape, sort of like the AT-AT is under the pyramid shape with the eyeball.
Scott's face, he's like, ah,
with the eyeball inside. So it's sort of a loose.
I've never seen this one before. Yeah, I'm sort of blown away.
And then in front of each flag, there is a superhero. So Colossus for Russia, Thor for Norway, Wolverine for Canada, Captain America, obviously, for the US. And then for Denmark, I couldn't find a Danish superhero. So Lego is a Danish company, and Lego's claim, or Denmark's claim to the Arctic, is through Greenland. So it's a Lego Greenland turn. Little
Take
joke
that,
for you.
Peter Pan syndrome. Politics, puns, everything is here.
Wow. So in one corner you've got Frankenstein, and on the other corner opposite you've got the Grinch, and those are the green figures. And why is Frankenstein in there? Well, at the end of the book, Frankenstein escapes to the Arctic to flee humanity. And behind him is a very stylized version of the flag of Greenland. And he's a green figure. And then behind the Grinch is a stylized version of the Greenland flag, because they're both green figures from the Arctic.
Wow.
This is the panther painting. So these are the sort of modern iteration of those initial taxidermy pieces. A few dozen toys related to panthers, with this panther that I photographed up at a zoo in Oregon. It's a jaguar, a black jaguar named Mally. Let's see how.
Jeez, the detail is just incredible.
It's insane.
And it looks like a black velvet painting on camera. The detail you got in the fur.
There's yeah, this one was fairly, the figure was fairly slow. So the composition, if you look at my sort of my Instagram or my YouTube, where I posted a time-lapse video of the creation of this, initially the figure was just coming straight out at the figure. There was no sort of three-dimensional sort of lunging aspect of the panther, but it wasn't working. It didn't have any energy. So I changed halfway through the painting. I completely changed the composition so that the panther was actually about to almost kind of leap out of the frame.
How frequently do you find that you're doing that? Like you get halfway through a crazy painting and have an idea that ends up causing you to repaint large sections, or?
It's rare, just because it's a ton of work to completely fix something like that. It's going to set me back at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But you also, if you really know deep down that it'll be a much better painting if you do that, there's already so much time invested in these things that you might as well just suck it up and say, well, 2 weeks, I just better do it, even though it's incredibly annoying to not get the composition right initially.
But I can see them being idea spirals where you've got it all laid out and you're going, and there's so much detail and so much time spent that like ideas start spinning in your head while you're working on it, and all of a sudden you want to put something else in.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I would say that one thing that does happen a lot is toys get added in as I'm working, and sometimes toys get taken out. But generally speaking, like this whatever the central component is, that's usually going to stay the same. This is a little study I made recently for a collector in Hong Kong. It's sort of a study of the space opera, kind of a slightly different version of it, and it's really just all the bounty hunters.
I didn't know you could paint that small.
If I really put my mind to it, Ian, I can try to. These were fun to make, but they're actually, condensing these things down to a smaller scale. If I want to have quite a bit of stuff in them and do the decorative motif as kind of intensely detailed, it still takes a long time. I think.
Oh, I believe that for sure.
This probably took each one of these little 12-inch paintings. This is the Martian painting. And each one of these little 12-inch pieces probably took, close to a month.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
They're fun to make though. They're just, they don't necessarily do what I want, some of like these types of paintings to do, which just has this kind of overwhelming presence that makes you sort of feel the way that you felt when you walked into a toy store as a kid, with the shelves just sort of towering over you. And part of the reason for the scale is because in my childhood imagination, these toys did tower over me. They were larger than life. And walking into any kind of toy store as a kid, where the shelves seemed to ascend to the heavens, and they towered over you, and maybe on my birthday, I got to go and pick out one toy. And, that was a very impossible task on these shelves that, went to the moon. And
wasn't that the worst? Like I'd go over to friends' houses as a kid, and they would have like tons of toys. And I'm like, how do you, like, I'd get like one toy in the holidays and one for my birthday. And it was like, how did you get all of these Star Wars figures? Like, who just went to this, like, did someone go to the store and just buy these for you during the year? Because I don't know how that works.
Yeah, well, everyone knew the one kid in the neighborhood that had like every toy. And,
right.
Like, I wouldn't say that I had, I wouldn't say that as a kid I was like, I felt deprived of toys. I had as many toys as I felt like I was, like toys were some of the first things you covet as a kid. As an adult, there's a,
but it never went away for me.
And it doesn't go away. It just sometimes it just changes into something else. It's
still toys. It's still.
If you look at my life, I was clearly deprived, and
well, it's right. Well, I'm sure we're
still trying to fill that gap.
We're all dealing with some sort of trauma.
Dove has an army of guys inventing new toys, right? So Dove can hoard them.
Well, I think Dove has picked up from a very early point. He picked up on the fact that toy culture was changing into something that had this huge following. I mean, it was morphing into something that was clearly special for a lot of people and important for a lot of people, and not just the sort of underground or subculture of people making their own customized toys, but just a kind of reverence that people have for these things that I think maybe 30 years ago we didn't really talk about toys in that way. We didn't talk about the reverence of the object itself and how meaningful it is to people. And even if it's done in a really comical way, like even if there's great comedy in the toy itself, or these customized toys that a lot of these really creative people have been making, there's still an underlining reverence to it, and it's I think Dove picked up on that a long time ago. Yeah. And in that respect, Dove was also, I hate to throw him a compliment, but he was also ahead of his time, by quite a bit. So it's and Dove's been fun to work with
too.
Well, I think
I wouldn't go that far.
What's interesting about, you talked about the Peter Pan syndrome, and people say, oh, do you play with toys? And then it's the explanation to them that it's not about the play value, it's about the nostalgia.
Right.
It's about, so I was watching 60
nostalgia,
minutes.
People use nostalgia in a very pejorative way sometimes. And as though it's exploitative. And I don't feel that, because I think it's the most powerful thing in the world is nostalgia.
Well, it depends on your personality, really. So I was watching 60 Minutes with Sarah, and David Byrne was on there. It's about a month ago, right? And Anderson Cooper goes to his place, and he's got his Oscar sitting on like a shelf in between some books, but there's no memorabilia. There's nothing about the past. And he's like, hey, where's your trophy room? Where is like the accolades? And he's just not into that. He's like, I'm just moving forward. Like that stuff I created years ago, I'm just like, going forward. And, I'm just always like looking back, just relitigating the past and, trying to like, pay attention to those feelings that I had and trying to like recapture them. Like, and there's just, I guess, different personalities. Like I'm not a thrill seeker. I don't go like, rappelling off a side of a building, but some people they're into that, like go race a car and I just playing with my toys.
Well, I sometimes felt like, I have relatives that are just massive sports fans, and why do they choose the teams that they choose? Why do they cheer as adults, as 40-year-olds, as people in their 40s and 50s? Why do they cheer for a team that they cheer for, and that they might not even live in the same town? They do, but they have this steadfast loyalty, and every Sunday they put on their football jersey, or they put on their hockey jersey and their basketball shirt, and they cheer for their team. And a lot of that is based solely around nostalgia. It's this nostalgia of what you were brought up with the team that you cheered for as a kid. And I think nostalgia informs almost every decision that a lot of us make in many ways.
Sure. And Scott and I were talking last week about very similar about this, and we're talking about, it's about not even just nostalgia, but it's about personal story. Like you're creating these touchstones that are story pieces in someone's life, and so I'm most of the time I'm making things that somehow connected to my childhood or my life or something, but every once in a while I'll make a piece that connects to what somebody else had, and they're buying that piece not necessarily because it's a great piece, though hopefully they do enjoy the piece, but because it spoke to a piece of their story. Right. And so I think nostalgia is just storytelling. It's going back to to the things we had before, and I mean as kids, but even as adults, because now I'm nostalgic for things I do with my daughter. And even at the age of 5, like her interests change so much that I'm nostalgic for things she loved last year that I love doing with her that she doesn't want to do anymore now. So it's not just about recapturing my childhood because I'm a shitty adult. It's about sort of reliving and retelling the story that I've created for myself and that's creating around me with the tools we have, which is pop culture and toys and art and stuff like that.
I think they say that like depressed people are always focused on the past, and people with anxiety are always focused on the future.
That makes sense. What if you have
Oh.
both?
No, but I think that's very well said. I mean, I was thinking about what you said, how sometimes things that involve your daughter are now nostalgic for you, and that's like this is tenuously comparable, but the Battle Cat painting is the first one I made in 2006. And it was sold in 2008, and I hadn't seen it in 15 years before I saw it for the show, because it's been in this collector's home and I'm in Seattle, and I've never saw the painting. And there's been a greater distance between me and making that painting than me making that painting and the time that I actually played with that toy as a child.
Oh.
And so the painting itself is almost more nostalgic for me than the original toy. I get more nostalgia now from looking at some of these old paintings from 2006, 2007 than even the original toy was. Because now when I think of the Battle Cat toy, I really just think of my Battle Cat painting, because it was the first one I made, and it was an important thing in the sparking of all of this body of work. But nostalgia is incredibly important. But when, I think storytelling is the right way to talk about it. I think people become cynical about nostalgia when it seems to be, for a lot of people, it seems to be sort of exploited by corporations to an extent. And I don't like, people sort of like to snidely say, oh, member berries, they say like, oh, we've just filled this with member berries. And I get what they're saying, that it can be cheap to exploit nostalgia, but I think a lot of people, when somebody's doing it in a genuine capacity, and when it's being sort of just shoved down your throat because they
money grab,
something
yeah.
you're gonna like.
Yeah.
And no, it's I don't have anything else to say about nostalgia.
It's all sort of
I think it's
behind
funny.
you.
It's like being nostalgic about nostalgia. It's so I'm currently buying back some toys that I collected in the 90s. So in the early 90s, there were no new Star Wars toys. There was the vintage stuff. And so most of the toy collectors I knew were collecting all this just weird garbage that would come out. Robin Hood and Last Action Hero, and
Oh, Last Action Hero. God, I love those toys.
There's just a slew of like horrible action figures that a lot of us look back on and say, oh, I can't believe I ever bought those. But
yeah, they were terrible.
I just recently bought back all of the Alien Marines figures. The Ripley, and it's funny because when I originally bought those, I was like nostalgic for the movie, and now I bought them back again, and now I'm like nostalgic for the toys that I was nostalgic for the movie. It's like it's weird.
Yeah,
collecting's
Double
weird,
dipping.
man. Yeah,
I did a similar thing I decided during the pandemic to start collecting tokens from arcades that I used to play at when I was a kid.
Oh.
And so I had tokens for like Aladdin's Castle. There was an arcade in Utah that my cousins and I would go to when I would visit them once a year, that I was able to track down. And it's the same thing where I'm not really nostalgic for going back to the arcades, but having the token, having the piece of that, is sort of like, okay, not that, I don't know if it spawned me thinking about the good memories or whatever, but like if there's an arcade, I'd go to it every once in a while, but I don't feel the need to be in arcades, but I sure as hell wanted to own all of these tokens for arcades that I went to. So
I have an amazing bag of tokens from you. Like this last estate collection that we got,
yeah?
like it was just every box had like tokens at the bottom of it. Like even like not mostly game tokens, but I found like a UCLA like parking lot B token.
And this is the disease of collecting. But so I started off with the video game tokens. And then as I was looking for tokens, I grew up in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I fell down a rabbit hole of the old bus tokens for Colorado Springs, which had these S's. I don't know, they're probably too hard to find right now, but they have these S's stamped into the middle of the token. So it's actually poked through, like there's empty space in there. So I started buying those, and it can spiral out of control very quickly. For like now, I just want looking tokens, which is sort of where I am now. Is like I just want to buy anything that looks cool to have in the collection. But yeah,
I think we could probably do one episode just on your tokens.
Probably.
I can't wait to see all of those
tokens, bad trading cards. We just call it Janky's bad decisions. Why he's broke.
And then
Yeah.
Robert can do a painting of the
A painting of all the tokens. That would
the
be a cool
nostalgia of the nostalgia.
showbiz. All the different
I-
versions of
I
the
would-
rat.
Oh
Uh-oh.
wait, did we lose him?
Where did he go?
He was real serious
He has
about
to,
that.
he has to mop the museum.
Yeah. A customer came in.
On sale now.
Well, while we're waiting for Robert, let's take care of some business here.
Ooh.
Dun-dun-dun-dun. So check that baby out. This is probably
Wow.
the most ambitious Scott C set that we have done to date. We made it for Gallery 1988 during the holidays, and we have a few left, and they're on the website right now. It is from our favorite movie that looks slightly like Point Break, but it's not.
Surf
And-
cop movie.
Surf comp movie, and then
Yeah.
you got the two guys there in that blister, and then this
I love
guy
this
here.
Like the dude from
Oh.
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
That would be a waste of time, man.
And these bad boys are on the site now. They're $300. I'm sorry they're so expensive. There's three full-size, two regular full-size figures, and then this one monster figure.
But there's
And
I'm gonna say the wave is $75 worth of resin alone.
And unfortunately, they don't get cheaper when you do more. Like if you notice that most of the designs that we've released are always a full-size figure and something really small. And it wasn't until we got to the Thing that was the first expensive figure at 175, and the Pulp Fiction, and then we decided to go crazy. Basically, we did it for Janky because he's
because I asked everything.
because this is just, you know, he's like,
And
I
immediately
need my
got one.
Point Break. So there it is. Is Robert back?
Robert's back.
Oh man, we got worried. We thought you fell into a hole.
I just ended, so I'm on my phone now.
Oh.
One second. So there's two more paintings in the stairwell, the tallest paintings in the show. Would you like me to show those before it ends?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before it ends. Before what
Before this, whatever this thing is that we're doing here.
Oh, it never ends.
You don't know what he's gotten into.
Okay.
We just fall asleep here and people watch us.
Yeah, these are after hours at the museum. But these are two pieces that we couldn't find space for in the actual gallery because they're too tall.
Holy moly.
This is the elephant painting. It's a little over 12 feet by 7 feet. And then this is the dinosaur painting, which is
Man.
That's just insane. It's like the Toronto Raptors and Jurassic Park and Turtles and Godzilla and it's just like every
And
dinosaur ever. That one was on the wall of our warehouse for quite a while, and I would just stare at it. And I just want to encourage everyone who's watching this, if you can at all make it to the show, it's only like $10 to get into the show, right? It's
$10.
It's a donation to the museum. It's not expensive. Bring the family. You can literally just stand there and look at these things for
hours.
Forever.
Yeah.
They're insane, the amount of detail. Robert's iPhone is not doing them justice.
I apologize. This is a terrible way to view these. But
no, look, this is great. There's people that are going to be very pleased to even have this opportunity to see them. I'm just encouraging people that are local, that are in California. And you said it ends June what?
June 4th.
June 4th. So you have at least a month and a half to make it down there. And you can even see Robert. You said Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah, Thursday through Sunday at 3 p.m. until close. I'm live painting.
So he's actually there painting, and it's just
So
when
good.
you think of all the great museum experiences you can have in Southern California, like this is top of the list.
I mean, you can make a weekend out of this. You go down, see Robert, spend the night in Oceanside, eat some good food, road trip over to Joshua Tree, see the Deadly Prey show at Hey
There
There.
you go.
You got a
Yeah.
whole weekend of like amazing pop culture art.
We had some great barbecue in Oceanside. I think it's called Heritage. It was dope. There's another one in San Juan Capistrano that like it sells out, but there's an actual sit-down restaurant not too far from the museum. I highly recommend it.
This is the bear painting, by the way. This was the last painting I didn't show, but
Nice.
it's 10 feet tall by 6.5 feet wide.
Can you
Wow.
walk up a little closer? Look at there's Fozzie Bear and Teddy Ruxpin and Pooh
Sugar
and
Bear.
Sugar Bear.
That one was in the warehouse for a bit, wasn't it?
Yeah, for a little while. Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, the bear was
Loki.
was only there for a few weeks.
And then, do you have all these toys?
Yeah, I have every single one of these toys. Yeah. Yeah, I always want to make sure that I have the toy in the studio when I'm working on it, just so that I can make sure that everything's lit kind of the right way. And I'll take photographs of everything and then, you know, use the photo and the toy to make sure that I get the figure right.
Wow.
How many works in progress do you have going at any particular moment? Like how many work in progress do you have right now?
Right now so what I have is the alien painting and then the wolf painting, which is well underway. I was actually working on that at DesignerCon this year. The rabbit painting, which is this big painting that has a little rabbit in the middle and it's surrounded by, you know, about 100 different rabbit toys. And the rhinoceros painting, which I started in 2019 that I haven't touched in about 3 years. And that's an enormous 8 foot by 13 foot painting of a life-size white rhinoceros surrounded by all these different rhinos. And then there's a secret painting that I'm doing for a collector in Miami. It's not a commission, but it's a painting that I pitched to this collector in Miami, and he liked the idea of it. And I'm not entirely ready to talk about what the painting is yet, but I should have it done hopefully by the end of the year. And that's
do you burn out? Do you burn out on a painting and just say fuck this and walk away, or do you need to take? I mean, it sounds like you've taken a breather for several years off of paintings, but
Scott is projecting here his daily experience.
I'm asking for a friend. Asking for a friend.
So I go through waves of being hyper productive and just being, I think a lot of painters and maybe even just artisans of any kind will relate to the idea of being in the zone, and a place where you can literally, you know, paint for 90 hours a week, and it doesn't even feel like anything. Now, to other people, they probably just think that you're a crazy weirdo when you leave your warehouse in, you know, the Bayview neighborhood of San Francisco where I used to live. And I think there were periods of my 30s where I was just like hyper productive, and I would teach 1 or 2 days a week as well at a college in San Francisco. But when I wasn't doing that, I was just painting all the time. And when it comes to burnout, like I do get sick of working on one painting. So because for me, the most exciting thing is starting a new painting, and the most joyous thing is finishing a painting. But everything in between is just work. You know,
pure misery.
Well, it's a lot of. I mean, you can't even think about the end product once you start it, because, you know, otherwise you kind of lose your mind a bit. Like to start something knowing that it might not be done for 3 or 4 or maybe 5 years. I mean, that's a really tough pill to swallow. So I just think one day at a time.
Yeah.
And it just, well, what is my daily task with this painting? Like even with the alien painting, I don't think about the end product right now. I know what I want it to be when I start it. But now it's just, okay, today I'm working on Krang. You know, that's it. That's all I'm thinking about is just Krang. And you know, tomorrow it'll be Gwildor. You know, like you just don't, you know, so, you know, I just think about it each day. I have a daily task, and I try to stay awake until that daily task is done. You know,
How much do you get done in an 8-hour shift? I remember. Do you know
That
who Ivan Albright was? He's like a
No.
Chicago painter. He did
No.
the little tiny. He he did he would paint like every follicle of hair and like every pore on the skin. They said an 8-hour shift. After 8 hours, he would get like a 1 by 1 inch square done in like 8 hours.
That's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Like when I think about those little 12-inch paintings, I mean that makes sense to me. Because those little 12-inch paintings are hyper detailed on a kind of a miniature scale, and some of the decorative motif of that was very, very labor intensive. It changes. It depends on what I'm working on. I mean, this alien painting has so many different types of toy figures in it, and some of them you can paint pretty quickly, and some of them take days. Like this, the difference in the amount of time between this xenomorph figure, which is a very detailed toy from I think the early 2000s, versus this Silver Surfer, which the Silver Surfer didn't take a huge amount of time. This Stitch, I mean, that Stitch didn't take that long. But some figures do. Some figures are incredibly. I mean, this I have yet to finish this Mars Attacks alien, but that's going to be a long one. There's a lot going on there.
So
and
you start with a blue underpainting. Is that
yeah, I do the blue underpaintings. It's all oil, and I do the blue just to establish the value. Yeah, it's just to get in the value, and it actually. It's a classical approach to painting to do an underpainting, this kind of monochrome, maybe not blue, but doing a monochrome underpainting of any kind to just sort of establish value, to see the composition. People think that it's going to slow down the process. It doesn't, because the underpainting, once the drawing is in, which is really slow, the underpainting is pretty quick because it's pretty rough. But the first layer of color actually goes by a lot faster when I glaze the first layer of color over top of the underpainting. It's a lot faster because I already have the value showing through, because all oils are transparent to an extent. And it's kind of hard to imagine, but if on this Superman down here, I got Superman and Golden Frieza and this the pirate from Treasure Planet, and the Iron Giant. If you took away the underpainting from the Superman, it would be much, much more dull and faded. I mean, it wouldn't have nearly the same kind of punch. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to do an underpainting. It just means that I'm going to have to do more layers of color if I don't do the underpainting. So the underpainting actually does, in some ways, kind of speed up the process, which seems sort of counterintuitive to a lot of people. But that's just sort of the nature of oils to an extent. I know lots of painters that don't do any underpaintings, and it definitely depends on what your style is and how you work. These are very, very blended and detailed figures that, if I don't do the underpainting, I'm just going to end up doing 2 or 3 layers of color on top of it, just to try to get back that vibrancy.
The look on Scott's face right now, I've just never seen. Like, I've hung out with Scott a lot, but he's like speechless, and the look on his face, it's like the gears are spinning in his brain, and it's like it's about to explode.
We just got our own personal masterclass, so
it's amazing. I've been, I mean, look, I've wanted to pick his brain since that 1988 show when I saw that massive Battle Cat, and I've seen just about all of those paintings that you've shown there in real life, and have poured over them. I mean, it's amazing.
Where did you see some of these? Were they in Dove's warehouse?
At Dove's, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No.
Tonight, I usually, after an experience like this, I usually do this thing where I go to the bathroom and I look at myself in the mirror and I cry and I yell at myself. You're not an artist.
People have different sort of passions and focus. I also think, you know, I don't think most people would enjoy my life. I think I think
Same.
I mean, I may sound like I'm kind of a fun guy to be around. This is a pure act. I am, you know, like
He's a complete dick.
he's a,
This is a facade.
Dove keeps saying that. I don't like to think that I'm a dick, but I do think that I'm okay with solitude. And that's what this requires, is enormous amounts of solitude that and living a very ascetic life that most people would not be. I mean, everyone I know who is in, like, my family members and stuff, they worry about me. So like, what you know, this is not natural to do this and to live this way and to spend this much time alone in your painting you know, in your studio painting. And you know, I have a long list of paintings that I dream of making. I'm sort of obsessed with the goal of this. I've got at least 60 more paintings that I dream of making before I'm dead. And, you know, that fuels this. And I have no shortage of sort of inspiration. There's inspiration everywhere. And I like I said, there's, you know, there's paintings coming down the pike that I'm incredibly excited by, and paintings that I'm just about to start that I'm incredibly excited about. But I know that at some point I will burn out. When you talk about burnout, like, I'm 40 years old right now. I started this body of work when I was 23. My 30s, I was hyper productive, like especially from 31 to 36. I mean, this sounds like hyperbole, but it really was 85 to 90 hours every single week of painting. And that was still, that would be in the weeks when I maybe wasn't teaching, you know, a couple of classes, but only have so much time to get some of this stuff done. And a lot of the dream paintings that I really want to make before I'm gone, I know won't happen. It's very unlikely that I'm going to be able to do this for another 25 years. Maybe I will, but there's no guarantees of that. And so I keep sort of working these insane hours at the expense of everything else in my life, because I'm very fortunate that within the past 3 years, I've come into contact with a few really amazing collectors, two in particular that have been kind of life-changing for me and my ability to keep doing this. But you know, I don't know how long the wave I can ride that wave, but I am obsessed with it, and I don't think that most people would enjoy the lifestyle. I'm too cold to say that I ever get lonely. I'm too cold of a human to do that. But there's only so much solitude that's normal, and you know, sometimes I'll call Dove just to talk to him, just to hear the sound of his lovely voice.
And then he calls you a dick, and
then Dove, you know, berates me and, you know, calls me an asshole. But
sometimes he drives up here and he's like, I need to just touch up the Batman painting, and he gets all the way. He drives all the way up here. He paints for like 5 minutes, and then he's like, let's go get some tacos. And then Ian and I will go and feed him, and then he'll look at the painting and be like, it's fine. And then he'll drive back home to San Diego.
Okay.
Next time you got to find the smash burgers, Robert. The smash burgers are life altering.
Thursday night.
Smash. Oh yeah, you've talked about those, Dove. I've never had one.
It's only Thursday nights, 6:30. Until he
I
runs out.
have another. Oh, go ahead.
We're talking about food now, Scott. No more art talk. Jeez.
All right. One more question, Scott.
All right. Have you ever fully bailed on a painting? Like started something and then just be like, dude, fuck this. I'm not doing this.
I can think of well, the first one that comes to mind is an Incredible Hulk painting that I started that was 10 feet by 6 feet. And I started that painting in 2008. And for whatever reason, I got sidetracked with other projects, and it sat unfinished in my studio for a long, long time, until eventually I just took the canvas off of the stretcher and just said, no, that's it. Not doing this one.
And as a
There
Hulk
are
collector, that's heartbreaking.
I
Amazing Hulk
look.
he's sitting unfinished somewhere.
What kind
No,
of Hulk
there
was
is-
it? Was it like a Toy Biz
It,
Hulk?
it was the the Toy Biz one that came with that bendable steel thing that went into his
Oh.
hands.
Like
Yeah, it was a cool looking painting. I just, for whatever reason, I wasn't feeling it. I didn't feel like it was going in the right direction, and I abandoned it. But yeah, sometimes that happens. As I've gotten older, it doesn't happen as much. It happens less and less, where I just feel like, no, I better be certain, because I don't have enough hours. And again, a lot of things that I'm working on are sort of pre-sold now, which is very, very lucky. But I better be certain about how I want this to go, because I can't afford the time to. I wouldn't say that I'm not taking risks every time I make one of these huge paintings. Obviously, from the very beginning, it's kind of a risk, because you don't entirely know how it's going to go. But I made a lot more.
Like a 80-inch in diameter painting of Silverhawks.
Yeah, I mean that painting got thrown out.
What?
Yeah, I mean, I kept the stretcher. The painting's gone. And I can't really, but I view that as sort of my early work of learning curve of realizing that these
cry.
these things could have been a better painting. And am I still on? I don't know.
Yeah,
You're
Yeah.
still on.
Okay.
everybody's heart just broke at the
It's
sound
just
of
we
paintings
just
being thrown
just
away.
getting more and more depressed.
Yeah. No, I've done that to a few paintings, but some of them they could be better. And I don't know if I want that much really old work even out there out there in the ether anyways. Some of it I'm really proud of, and some of it I think is bad. Like my Thundercats painting, I view it as the most important painting I've ever made. And I don't think it's a good painting. I just think that it's the most important painting because I learned more about painting from making that one thing than any other thing that I've made. The Thundercats painting was such a battle for me, and it's a huge 6 foot by 11 foot canvas, and it changed a lot over the years from the first version. I kept adding to it, and then eventually it did sell. So I shouldn't tell the collector that I don't like it, but it is a painting that I view as maybe one of my most important pieces I've ever made, just because I learned a lot from it. Yeah, so in terms of abandoning paintings, the Incredible Hulk is the only one I can think of off the top of my head. But I'm sure there were some others. I wish that I abandoned the Blanca Street Fighter Blanca painting. It's probably the worst painting I've made. I mean, it's on my
But
website.
you
I
see,
kept it
then
up
we'll
on my
all look at
website.
it. We'll be like, "This is the dopest painting."
No, you wouldn't. Trust me. With this one, you wouldn't. I mean, for some of them, I know when I'm being like overly critical, and when I'm actually like, nah, this was a bad decision. But it's
Amazing.
it was. But yeah, that happens. That's art. Sometimes especially the earlier stages, I made a lot of mistakes with a lot of things, and I try to mitigate those mistakes as much as possible now.
The mistakes are where you learn. The successes are what fuel you. So if you don't make the mistakes, you don't have the failures, you don't move forward.
100%. That's absolutely accurate, and that couldn't be said more sort of better. The mistakes are something I value, and I look back on them now. At the time, it's really difficult. Like even the Batman painting. You wouldn't believe some of the conservational problems I've had with that painting, just because of things that happened during the making of it that I learned from. I mean, I learned not to do that again, and sometimes just being told. I know this as a former student and as somebody who taught part-time college for a long time. The best ways to learn are just by doing and failing, and I certainly had a lot of failures early on, and it's part of the creation. I mean, any creator knows this. Every creative person on earth who does anything, pursues anything, they are met with failure. I mean, I don't believe that there's ever true savants who never commit failure, and they're able to make just everything perfectly from the day they're born. I mean, that's not the way that the world is. And everybody makes bad decisions from time to time. And as an artist, I've made many in the past. I'm trying to reduce that as I get older. But
Aren't we all? Well, I had some other stuff to cover, but Robert's just been running on all cylinders, and I think this has been an amazing interview, and I really want to thank you for taking the time. It's just been remarkable seeing all of the art. So I know you got to get going soon. So I don't just a other little business here. Just to recap here. For all those who've made it this far, This Great Showdowns by Scott C. is on the website right now.
it's amazing.
You
So
can
good.
get them
It's
right now. Robert, can you just tell people where they can find you on the internet?
They can find my website, robertxburden.com, or my Instagram, rxburden.
I just want to say, I want to highly recommend to anyone that goes to his website is his time-lapse videos on the website on YouTube are extraordinary because they're not just a normal time lapse where he runs around and you see him like jumping around the screen and the ladder, you know, going back and forth. Robert is so psycho that he would remove the ladder, go to the camera and hit the button, and then put the ladder back and go back to painting, and an hour later go back and do that again. And it has made some of the most, I mean, just added more time to creating these pieces, but the end result of these videos are watching these paintings just blossom in these videos, and he's set them to music, and they're super entertaining and very inspiring. So I really recommend that people look that stuff up.
Thanks, Dove. I want to thank you guys for having me. This was a lot of fun to talk to you guys, and Janky and Scott. I've never talked to you guys before, but it's really.
And he's like, I'm never talking to you again.
Yeah,
No, it's been a pleasure. It really has. It's been fun.
Thank you, man. We really appreciate it. You taking the time, and I know the museum's closed, so we just appreciate you hanging out there and giving us the tour.
He's got
so
toilets to unclog now. He's got
Yeah,
cleanup work
back to work, Robert.
Windows
so-
need to be
make sure to follow us.
Break time's over.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram at DKE Toys. Subscribe on YouTube at DKE Toys. This Friday's interview, I think, is 2-Bit Hack, which will be posted on YouTube. If you're happy with DKE Toys, you enjoy the stuff you get from us. If you enjoy these interviews, leave us a Google review. We really appreciate it if you do. If you want to leave a comment for Janky to talk about online, dketoystv@gmail.com. And for anyone who is placing an order online, if you in the notes section, not the coupon code, but in the notes section, if you just mention DKE Toys TV, we will give you a free invisible Sucklord and add it to your order. It has to be an order where you actually order something on the site now or in the future while supplies last. And that's it. Next week we have Scott Deeming from Yoyodyne.
Sweet.
And we will be talking about the History
Oh,
Channel
great.
show, Toys That Made America, and all sorts of fun stuff. So
Very
thank you,
cool.
everybody. Thank you, Robert. I really appreciate it. It was just amazing episode, amazing insight into the process. Beautiful work.
Thanks a lot, Dove. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Janky. Thanks, Scott. We'll talk to you soon.